Morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. This is really aimed at anybody who's in my daughter's position and wants to go to uni. And the dilemma is my daughter wants to go to university outside of London, up north. And being a Londoner, I'm saying no. And she's saying, Dad, please. And we're going to hear some advice from a beautiful young lady who's going to tell us about her experience and how the education system works. So nice to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
So just can you recap, please, on what you were saying about the universities in Scotland?
Yeah, so when you leave England, obviously the government in England have said that universities can charge £9,000 a year for our tuition fees. That's not including, your maintenance costs, your where you live, your food, your textbooks, which in themselves are just extortionately expensive. But that's not the case in Scotland or Ireland. So essentially, quite often you can find more financial support for higher kind of household income thresholds as well. So, for example, in Edinburgh, I know that we have up to kind of household incomes of 60,000. You can get additional scholarships from the university, which is fantastic to cover costs of travelling home or the textbooks that you need to buy and things like that. So that's definitely something to investigate. But I think when you're applying to universities and looking at universities, it's really important, obviously, from a young person's point of view, it's an opportunity to be independent and maybe get away from home. But it is really important to remember that you are investing in your future, and it is you investing. Most people do need a student loan. Most people, parents aren't covering the fees for them. So at the end of the day, that's money you have to pay back, and you have to make sure that you're making a kind of your first, probably sound financial decision. So, everybody wants to have somewhere where they can go out and do things, and there are societies, which is really, really nice, but also just make sure that it's somewhere that you actually like to be. London obviously has a wide range of amazing unis, and you're never going to be, you're never going to find yourself, if you do stay in London, at a university which isn't going to get you a good job. They're really well respected. It's impressive to look at a CV and see King's or UCL or Queen Mary. So yeah, there's so much to consider. There's the financial aspect, there's kind of safeguarding your future in terms of you making sure that you make a good decision in terms of getting a job, which is essentially, the end goal, if you're going to be investing all that money. So I would just say to whoever really is struggling at the moment, do your research. I know it's hard with COVID, but if you can even just take an overnight trip to some of these places, obviously if you already know London and maybe you're just considering one kind of out of city university, it's a bit more feasible to maybe just take a trip up to Glasgow or to Edinburgh, or just to see what it's like, see the campus, see the accommodation options, see what the societies are like. Because at the end of the day, university is university. And if you're going to Russell Group, or if you're going to kind of a well-regarded university, it's all pretty much the same. And it's all going to probably get you to the same point. If you're looking at obviously staying in London to work, it would potentially be useful to be able to start networking, building those contacts. If you're joining societies related to your course, quite often you can have guest speakers or people come in, and it's really, it's really, really great to try and network with them, get their name, have a little chat, just something so that they remember you if you ever need kind of somebody to speak to, or maybe some internship opportunities. So that's really amazing. But I also do understand the draw of being able to kind of be independent and get away from home and for the first time. So it's a tough decision, especially for mum and dad as well.
How did you make your decision? Was there what were the big hurdles for you?
Yeah, my decision was quite a tough one. So I was at an international boarding school, and all of my friends are international really, so anybody who was staying in England for university pretty much stayed in London. But I grew up here and my parents are here, so I was the one who kind of said, you know what, and it was a really, really tough decision for me. It took me a really long time. I had to leave it to the very, very last minute to kind of say which offer I was going to put as my first choice and where I was going to have a second in case, I didn't get into my firm. And so it was really, really tricky because I wanted to stay with my friends, but I also wanted to have a bit of an adventure and explore somewhere new. And I do sometimes, there are occasions where I regret it. So now I'm, during COVID especially, everything's been shut in Scotland, and I was in my flat in Edinburgh on my own for about 4 months. And that was really, really tough. It was difficult to see my family. All of my friends are really far away. There are no societies. There wasn't really anything social going on. So it's a big decision to make, especially when you're from London, moving 400, 500 miles away. We're well connected and everything, but it's not quite like if you have a really crappy day just going home for a hug with mum.
Those were my words as well.
Exactly.
Those were my words to her. If you're sick and you want to hug from mum can't come to Scotland, and she's not coming to Scotland to buy a ticket because you decided to leave London.
It's a tough one to make the decision, but I'm sure that, with enough research and frank conversations, then you'll be able to do it and just make the best of whatever you decide, really.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for that. Much appreciated.
No problem.
And we wish you well.
Thank you.
We hope you liked that Taxi Chronicles interview. Don't forget to share and subscribe to get the latest episode. Ever considered investing in the continent with the fastest growing economies and population on Earth? The same continent that holds 30% of the world's known natural resources. Listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories, where you hear real investors with real stories from around the world share their experience of investing in Africa. We post Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. British Standard Time. Your life experience, good or bad, is a gift when you share it with others. At Taxi Chronicles, we allow real riders with real stories to share their gift. So hopefully this episode will intrigue, enhance or inspire you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.